think I can stop crying for a little bit. I think it's been rough. Um so part of what's been bothering me the most, especially today with my cousin apparently, I don't know that it was him. I'm pretty sure it was Kathy. This person said shut your nasty mouth too many times to be a 40-year-old man. But if it was Randy, it was Randy. But regardless, the the family's denial has bothered me a lot on an insane level. My aunt's denial and my sister's denial and my cousin's denial of what happened, what we all knew, it it genuinely makes me feel completely hopeless, and that's part of what drives me the most insane. The idea that they're even doing this now and nobody sees it, and they can just deny it and say they didn't do it, and everybody just backs them up and says, yeah. It's just. So I was reading through Reddit and I found this and it helped me a little bit, and so I wanted to share it here, and just in case there's anybody else out there struggling and hasn't found this themselves. So this isn't mine, obviously. This is from somebody, Acre. It's from a couple years ago. It's called "The Reason Abusers Deny Abuse and Why Attempts to Give Them to Acknowledge the Damage They Did Are Futile." They say they've been thinking about why abusive people simply refuse to acknowledge the damage they did. They were told recently that their mind exaggerated the experiences. After much thought, they had a theory on the topic. The theory being that the abusers remember the events quite differently from how we remember them as victims. Yes, I'm changing some of the wording so it's not sounding like I've wrote it, because she says me a lot. They have hit, screamed at us, bullied us, isolated us, deliberately neglected our needs, or said awful and horrible things which may haunt us well into adulthood. Really? For us, such events, why are those two words hard to say together? Were deeply traumatizing. For them, they were cathartic. They experienced dysregulation or buildup of unacceptable emotions, and they chose us as an outlet because we were young, vulnerable, and would not be able to defend ourselves or fight back. My eyes are blurring. I'm losing my space a little bit. I'm going to move up. When they let out all their negative energies on us, they experienced relief, release, and catharsis. And because we, their targets, were unable to respond or fight back, they experienced no negative feedback or punishment for their actions. On the contrary, they experienced reward for their behavior because they experienced relief through letting out their negative emotions while simultaneously getting away with it without any consequences. They think it can't be that bad because they either don't remember it at all or they think that it can't have been that bad since it wasn't that bad for them. After all, for them, it was a good experience. In cases of neglect, abandonment, or not protecting us from harmful experiences, they also don't remember because they simply did not see us as important enough for their attention. Things that are trivial and meaningless are not remembered by the mind anyway. If confronted, they will use several defense mechanisms to deny our experiences. The first is denial. They will block information coming from us because if they let that in, they may have to deal with the idea that they are not good people and that they have caused lasting damage to another person. Might as well live in denial and say it never happened. That way, especially since our traumatic events were positive or neutral experiences for them. Number two is repression. Whenever they actually do feel guilt for remembering an event as an I was bad experience, they will bury deep into their subconscious and pretend it never happened. If they forget, they can pretend it never happened, and if they pretend hard enough, others will hopefully forget as well. Sorry, I need to regulate my breathing a little bit. My heart keeps going out of my body. Today has just been hard. Projection. They never treated us badly. We treated them badly. Everything they did was just a response. Rationalization. They will come up with some shitty logic to justify the poor behavior and say things like, "We had it so much worse. Kids these days are just soft and whiny," or "What did we do? We did what we did to make you good people." No, you did what you did for yourself, with no consideration for your target. Also, nothing justifies poor behavior. Intellectualization. Coming up with facts in order to ignore the emotional impact of their bad behavior. Quoting words of wisdom such as "spare the rod, spoil the child," or "a diamond earns its sparkle from the pressure it endures." Basically, they will never acknowledge what they put us through. It will require them to transform a positive or meaningless memory into a negative one, which would inconvenience them and make them feel bad. What advantage would doing such a thing hold for them? Nothing. So they don't want it. They don't do it. If they had the emotional maturity to handle the negative emotions they felt, they would never have resorted to the abusive behavior in the first place. Trying to explain to an abuser how their abuse damaged us is futile. They don't care. They don't want to care, and they have many tools to tackle and fend off any attempts to explain to them where they went wrong. They are emotional black holes that will suck our energy during every interaction on the topic of abuse. And so I feel we should treat them as the lost cause most of them are and focus on ourselves instead of wasting time trying to get them to acknowledge the wrongs that they did to us. I was going to turn my camera back on, but it might freeze my stuff up again, so I'll just say my thing here. This person is right. I have been fighting and fighting and fighting to be believed over my family's denial. I'm never going to get my family to stop denying it, and I'm never going to get them to accept it. I'm going to stop fighting them about it. I wish they would leave my brother's grave alone, and that's going to upset me every time they do it. But I'm not going to argue back and forth with them about what happened any further, because it's very clear that they're never going to accept it and they're never going to stop. It's only hurting me, trying to force them to make my reality reality.